Hey YouTube, it's Jerome here. I am out in Harlan County, Kentucky, seeing and learning about my family roots. Currently, we are in Lynch, Kentucky. Yes, that is the actual name. Let me. Can I switch this around? No, I can't. Here with Cuz. Introduce yourself. Yo, yo, yo. My cousin Dwayne. Ugh. Got my cuz here from Louisville. What's up? What's up? Oh man, it's really beautiful here. We went to the top of Black Mountain, which is the highest point in Kentucky. It's like how big was it? Like 4,125 feet. Cuz yeah, it was like 4,100 feet. And back here in the mountains, you see the mountains behind me. We got, what was it? We got Mount Moriah. No, Mount Moriah is over in Paducah. I think Mount Sinai is over here, right? Yeah, we have a lot of mountains named after mountains in Israel. Or Jerusalem, or that region, anyway. But, yeah, so, really, I'm waiting for my dad to come out. I'm going to talk about some of my family history, because he knows it way better than I do. But, I mean, this place is beautiful. Somebody call me? Dad. All right, I'm recording. You know, I do for my YouTube vlog. So, tell about the history of how our family got out to Harlan County and a little bit where we are, and et cetera, et cetera.
So after World War I, Jim Parker had a knowledge of coal, living in Carbon Hill, Alabama. He also had a knowledge of horsemanship and a few other things, medicine, but coal and horses were how he made his money. A few circumstances and situations happened that necessitated him having to leave Alabama. So he took all of his family and came up here. And this was a very coal-rich and important part of the country at the time. In fact, a great deal of the United States coal came from this part of the country at that time, and everybody knew this was a place to be if you had knowledge of the coal industry and where to make money. So Jim brought his family up here, as did a lot of families from that part of Alabama, Carbon Hill, around Birmingham, going down towards Mississippi, which if you know anything about the Appalachian Mountains come down that way as well. They had knowledge of coal. He came up here, and by the 1930s had risen to the rank of foreman in the mines, which was a heck of a feat for, you know, a black man back in that time, and especially think about it, the 1930s. So during the Cold Wars, when Harlan County had gained its name of Bloody Harlan, you know, Big Jim Parker was a foreman in the mines. He worked all the way up until maybe the mid-1940s. It was reported around the time that my grandfather, W.C. Dub Parker, was in World War II, he and his brothers. That's when Big Jim had passed away, but by that time the family was firmly rooted in this part of the country, as were a lot of other African-American families that came from Alabama during that time.
Okay. And how do we get from here to Louisville?
So after World War II, my grandfather went to trade school, Western Kentucky Trade School in Paducah, Kentucky, and took up a trade, as did many of the soldiers and people who came back, you know, after serving in World War II. And it was there where he met my grandmother, Maxine Glore. And shortly after the birth of my Uncle Willie Watt, around 1947, somewhere around that time, I might be inaccurate on the dates, they ended up moving to Louisville, and that's how they got, you know, that's how the Parkers ended up in Louisville. But separate and apart from the Parkers in Louisville, other Parkers that were in Harlan County ended up in places like Dayton, Ohio, Illinois, Cleveland, Ohio, and a few other places, you know, where families just basically, or branches of the family, migrated out.
Nice. What were you saying about? Tell them what you were saying about Pangea in this region.
Well, you know, if you look at Pangea and the way that the pieces of the puzzle come together, the area that's known as Northwest Africa fits almost perfectly in the southeastern part of the United States. Look at it on a map, and it fits. So there are some people under the Pangea theory that theorize that this part of the country was actually at one time Northwest Africa. And if you look at the mountains that you find in, let's say, Ghana, Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, and you look at the mountains here, with the exception of the vegetation, the mountains look exactly the same, because at one time this was actually one landmass, one people.
Yo. Bam! Come on to the video. Come on to the video, Bam. I'm introducing my family to YouTube. Come on. Yeah, no, you try to sneak on past. Come on over here. Ugh. My cousin Bam. Nah, go ahead and say hi. Say what's up.
Hey, what's up?
What's up? You were born here?
Yeah.
And then when did you what's your story? What's your migration story?
Migration story. I left here, grew up here, roots here. Migration story. Turned 18, no jobs here, so you had to leave. That's pretty much why everybody's gone now, and nobody's here anymore. But before that time, these streets would be filled 200, 300, 400 people.
Yeah.
Now, it's like you can't even see one person out on the street right now.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But
those
the
mountains,
paper, they're gonna hold it down.
Yeah.
These streets will be completely packed with cars and people weaving in between the cars, and the cars bumper to bumper from one end of the street to the other.
Thanks for appreciate the show.
Yep. So Harlan County was like one of the hardest counties hit when, Obama kind of killed all the coal jobs. This was basically the Bam. Tell them the story about, World War I and World War II, and how Harlan was really influential in the war efforts.
Oh yeah, they U.S. Steel. They when you cook that coal and then you heat that coal, it turns into what they call coke, and then you heat it up so hot, and that turns into molten steel. And so you have to think about it. Two of the hardest substances, steel and diamonds. You know what I'm saying? Come from the same substance.
Carbon.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Both of them are carbon. And so they mass produce that, and a lot of they supplied the whole entire United States, and even a lot of the world, and a lot of the Negro labor produced a great margin of that, and a lot of them never got the respect that they deserved, and as well as many cases in the United States as far as accomplishments and inventions and everything like that. Most of these things that even in mines that probably were created or invented, or just even little small ideas or whatever, probably came from those laborers who had to do the most roughest and harshest things or what have you, and then they had thought of a way to make that thing easy or whatever, and then the owners would take that and have it constructed, engineered, and then it's produced, and now here go my money and my wealth even greater, But that's what the Bible says, that all the nations of the earth will be blessed because of the children of Israel. Every nation on this planet builds off of our wealth, because we as a people are not obedient to the laws and commandments of God right now. And at some point, we are turning around and we're starting to realize who we are. And in the Bible it says that once we remember who we are, it says we will break Esau's yoke from off of our neck. And that's why all of this stuff that is happening now is so rampant, and how we're being killed and murdered and destroyed in every side. But God said at the end of the day, He said, I will not let these curses come upon. He said, I will place these upon your enemies. That's why you see them getting the mumps and the measles and polio and stuff like that. And they tried to, He said, everything that thine enemy has done to you, He said, it shall be placed upon their head. And see, a lot of people ain't telling that Jesus Christ story right. Because the Bible says when He come back, He said, He's not coming back, just all in the cloud and just, looking all, happy-go-lucky. The Bible says at His return, every nation of the earth will mourn. Nation is nationality. Every nationality will mourn because of what they have done to the children of Israel, the so-called Negroes, that's been scattered into every planet, every continent. And that's what's going on. And the time of Jacob's trouble is upon us now. And you all researched that the time of Jacob's trouble. It's now. And it's about to happen. Yahushua's return is so close. So close. Study those feasts of God. There's 7 feasts, Hebrew feasts. Study them. Especially the last 3 feasts. They are getting ready to be fulfilled. This war is getting ready to happen. Peace.
That was my cousin Bam. So, Harlan, so yeah, during World War I, World War II, we supplied a lot of the steel, you know, to make the bombs, bullets, ships, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And then, okay, thank you. And then, also, if any of you have watched the show Justified, that show took place in Harlan, Kentucky. Yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. But yeah, I'm past my 5-minute mark. So we're gonna go ahead and stop this one. And thank you guys. And I'm going back to Louisville in a couple hours. And I will see you guys tomorrow.